Yo guys, welcome to this new video. It took me a while to make this video because I don't want to talk too much about my amputation. And that's not because I'm ashamed of it, it's more because I want to be my YouTube channel. I want my YouTube channel to go about me and the things I do. And I am not my amputation. It's a part of my life, and in my videos you can see I'm doing things on my prosthetic, you can see me doing things in the wheelchair, but it's not the subject of my channel. My channel is about me and the things I do. But I felt like making this video about how I ended up with this one over here. So yeah, that's what I'm going to tell you guys today. I'm first gonna tell you how I ended up in a wheelchair, and in part 2 I will tell you about my actual amputation. So it was 2011 in September. I was walking over the streets with my mom, and I did saw a man in a wheelchair, and I told my mom, I'm so happy and I'm so glad that I'm healthy, that I can walk, that I can run around, not knowing that my life would completely change 3 days afterwards. A little bit background story. I was a normal kid, born with 2 legs, 2 working legs. I was healthy, there was nothing going on with my life, never walked on crutches before, never been in a wheelchair before. And I was doing rhythmic gymnastics and gymnastics. I was doing some competitions, I wasn't the best one, but I was always taking it quite seriously, doing a couple of trainings a week, and I was a very active kid. I was always climbing into trees, running around, playing football with the guys. And this meant so much to me that I could do all of those things, and that's why you can, see in the thing I said to my mom. So 3 days after me and my mom were walking into the city, I was playing with my little sister. She was also doing rhythmic gymnastics, so we were always making head tumbles, standing on our hands, jumping on the bed, trying our new exercises and stuff, and we really enjoyed it. We did this like almost every single day. One day we were doing all of this again, but that was the moment my entire life changed. I made a head tumble and I broke my toe. Yeah, that's how I ended up being an amputee. I broke my toe playing with my sister. It sounds so surreal. It sounds so unbelievable. Like, how can you lose your leg from something so small? So that's what I'm going to try explain to you guys. So what happened is that I broke my toe, and because of that my nerve system crashed. So it's called RSD, and it means you do have a lot of nerve pain, and in every situation is different. From some people it came, it starts like the pain is getting worse and worse by time. Sometimes they're like immediately, and you can get it from almost everything. You can just hit your arm to something and you can get it. You can break your toe, you can have a car accident. But for me, it was breaking my toe. So what happened is I made this head tumble, I broke my toe, and I started crying so badly. And from that moment, I knew there was something wrong. I immediately knew there was more going on than just a broken bone. But I didn't know what to do. So my sister was with me. She ran downstairs. She got my parents, and my parents came upstairs like, oh my god, what happened? And I couldn't even speak at that moment. I could just cry and scream, and this pain was so terrible. So we tried to go downstairs because we were on the 2nd floor. We tried to go downstairs, and this, you know, this was awful. I normally just walk down. I couldn't walk at all. So my dad needed me to get downstairs, put me on his back, and I was 11 back then. So we went downstairs, and my sister was like, yeah, our neighbor, she worked in the hospital, right? So she went to our neighbor and she asked her to come over because it was already quite late. It was around 10 o'clock, I think. So she came to us and she was like, okay, just keep rest tonight. Probably your bone is broken. Go to the doctor tomorrow and then they can do something for you. But for now, just go to sleep and rest. I haven't slept the entire night. I was awake. I had so much pain. I was just crying. And I never felt so much pain before. The next day we went to the doctor and they said, yeah, your toe's broken. They didn't take any pictures of it. They just said it, put a little tape around it and said, in 2 weeks you can walk again. Here you have crutches. Go home now. So you always believe the doctor, right? So we went back home. I walked on crutches, but these 2 weeks, the pain became worse and worse. So after, you know, having this pain for 2 weeks, we went back to the same doctor and we're like, it isn't over yet. It's actually getting worse and worse. And she was like, oh no, just takes a little bit more time for you. She sent me back home. And while I was walking out the door, she told my parents that I was making things up. I made up this pain to get more attention. And this is the biggest bullshit I ever heard in my life. But say enough, I hid this for 5 years. My parents didn't know what to do, so we went back home and the pain kept going. So a couple of weeks later, we let them took pictures and they could see there was like a very small bone broken into my feet. And that was basically it. But it's something that, you know, needs to be fine in a couple of weeks. So after more and more weeks, we went back to the hospital to another doctor because they had to do something. What they did, they put a cast around my leg and they hoped that that would help. But it didn't. Again, the pain got worse and worse. And at the moment you think you can have more pain than that moment, that's not true. You can always have more pain. So went back home and we let it remove earlier than planned because it was insane. And the thing was, when they put it off, like they put my feet in 90 degrees, and as soon as they put the cast off, my feet just fell down. I will show you guys a picture. And I couldn't move my muscles anymore. And that's where I started to completely lose the, you know, the power of my muscles in my ankle and my feet. And again, they sent me back home saying that I was making up things. It was the first time they said it could possibly be RSD, but we're not sure. So I went back home and the pain was so worse. I cried for 3 days straight. Even 5 days. I haven't slept in those 5 days, and we called the day we came back that night. We called back to the hospital and my dad was like, the pain's getting worse and worse. We don't know what to do anymore. Please help us. They were like desperate. We all were, and they were like, sorry sir, but you're not allowed to call us until next Monday. There was 6 days left from that day. They just put us into this situation and they didn't want to help us at all. And that's insane, you know. They didn't want to help us anymore. So the situation was just so awful that at one moment my dad just put me in the car, drove to the hospital, put me down there, and said, I'm not going to take her back home. You guys are going to help her right now, and I'm not gonna leave before she got a bed in this hospital. And that's the best thing my dad could ever do. They gave me morphine, a lot of morphine, and it didn't help at all for the pain. I just got really tired. What was quite annoying because I couldn't sleep because of the pain, but I was so tired. I felt dead at that moment. It was insane. Again, there came a doctor who wanted to send me home, but at this point the hospital, like the people who worked there, the nurse, she wasn't okay with that. She was like, no, you guys are going to help her now. So she got another doctor. She came over and she actually she said that I had to stay into the hospital, and that was such a good feeling that someone was finally taking me serious. After a week being in the hospital, I had my Christmas over there. After a week being in the hospital, they brought me to a rehabilitation center, and when I came there, they were like, okay, we are going to help you. We have a great treatment. It always helps. You will be running away in 12 weeks. 12 weeks later, I went back to this doctor and I had rehabilitation, I had physiotherapy, I did at swimming, I did all those therapies to get better. 12 weeks later, I went back to this doctor who told me I would run away, and I was like, sorry, but I'm still in bed 19 hours a day and I can't make any step. I've been in a rehabilitation center for 6 months and I got in a really big depression there because I felt so extremely lonely. I am going to make another video about my depression because I think it's something we should talk about more to help other kids out with depressions. But you guys will see that video another time. But after 6 months, I could make 2 steps and I went back home because I was starting at high school. And at high school, I had the worst time ever. I've been bullied very badly. Not just with words, also physically. I've been hit for many times and a lot of things happened. Don't want to go too deep into this, but because of those guys who hit me on the leg, the pain also got into my upper leg. So first it was under the knee, and in the end it went all the way up. I tried all the treatments out there and nothing helped. And then when I was like 14 years old, when I just became 14, I was like, yeah, but maybe an amputation is an option. But I was so afraid to tell this to people. I've told it once where my parents were and a doctor, and the first thing I heard, are you crazy? We can't amputate a healthy leg. So they did call my leg healthy. It was purple, it didn't grow anymore. My bones were very like, just a little thing needed to happen and my entire feet will be broken. And you know how it wasn't a healthy leg at all. And everyone kept telling me that I would get better and that there would be a day that I could walk again. So when I was 14 years old, I finally found the courage to tell my parents I wanted my leg to be amputated. And that was the moment we searched for a doctor who actually wanted to do this. We found one in Groningen. It's on the top of Holland, and you know, in Holland you can do everything by car in like 3 hours. So 3 hours is far away for us. So the hospital was 3 hours away from where we lived. We went to this hospital and then everything went so fast. It was December 2014 when I went to this doctor for the first time, and he told me to write everything down. And that's the moment I started writing in my diary. I started writing about why I wanted my leg to be amputated, about how I felt, how it could be better, the worst days, but also the good days, just to be sure this was really what I wanted. And a lot of people are saying like, oh, that you know, making the decision to actually amputate your leg, that should be so hard. And I can tell you, for me, it wasn't. I didn't have a life anymore. Like I told you, I was in bed for 19 hours a day. I had 5 hours to do everything. I had 5 hours to go to school, have my shower, eat something, and then also you have something like a social life, and that's something you just can't do in 5 hours. So I didn't really have life anymore, and the pain was getting worse and worse. I couldn't make any step anymore, and I could barely use a wheelchair because I couldn't sit anymore because the pain was so high into my leg. This doctor asked me to come back in a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, and then I went back to this doctor, and I had some opinions with the psychologist and with the physiotherapist to talk about why I wanted this. And you know, I was so strong about this is what I want, I don't want anything else, this is the only thing that can actually help me. And they believed that. And then they told me that they finally want to amputate my leg. And it's actually quite weird that I'm telling this with a smile on my face, but I was so happy. And then things started changing. Yeah. So this is part 1 of my amputee story. Please watch part 2 when it's online, and I will tell you everything about how my life changed after my amputation and about the amputation itself. Thank you for watching this video, and you know, I'm being very open, and I think that's very important, and I hope I can inspire you guys with telling my story, because from everything that happened, I realized that your life can completely change in a second, and that you should enjoy every single moment of your life, and that you should celebrate your life. And I think that's so important, and it doesn't matter what happened to you, in the end you will come back and have the most wonderful life you want to have. See you guys in part 2 of this amputee story.